Canada's top personnel carrier with my gear, crowded in with 20 or so other men. Navy corpsman, 23 years old. Been in Vietnam for about 3 weeks. Weeks spent doing busy work. Some days I check and replenish the aid packs meant to keep Marines alive. Others I clean stretchers or give shots. Spend lots of time writing letters home. Wait for mail call. Wait for a permanent duty assignment. Today I've got it. The truck leaves. It's the rainy season. Unpaved roads, rutted brown muck, lined with metal shacks and reed huts. Signs in French and Vietnamese. All the smells strange in the heavy tropical air. A mixture of diesel exhaust, garbage, animal and human waste. Packed inside the truck with all the others. I'm all alone. The truck moves south to the edge of the base, stops at a building marked Battalion Aid Station. A voice rings out from the truck's cab. "Sissons, where the hell are you? Get your ass on this truck." We stop to pick up the second corpsman, who will be my partner on Hill 65. We're attached to a group of Marines whose job is to rebuild and maintain roads and clear ordnance. "Right here, Sarge." A small man explodes out the door of the BAS with all his gear. He flings it into the truck right next to my feet, then hops in and sits beside me. "Who's the other doc?" I extend my hand. "Ken Sissons. How long you been in country?" "Just a few weeks." "I haven't been here much longer. Don't worry, we'll get you squared away." We see a river that's the center of life in a village we pass. People fish and wash their clothes on the bank. Water buffalo drink their fill. We roll further south past Marble Mountain, a stark white massif that seems completely out of place in the flat landscape of endless rice paddies. Then we head inland. At last the truck climbs up the hill that's to be my home for the next several months. We dump our gear off the truck, then jump to the ground. We find our hooch, get settled, and head out to find the mess tent for the evening meal. That dubious feast consists of several indescribable substances out of very large cans that have been heated and slopped onto segmented metal trays. Over chow, we start to get better acquainted, sharing where we come from in the world. He's a half-breed Lakota Sioux who grew up on a reservation in Nevada. From that first handshake, we're fast friends. Never smoked weed before arriving in country. Kenny makes the introduction. Down in the Ville, the Vietnamese sell us took fin in plastic packs of 10 pre-rolled joints. They use the paper from their children's school notebooks. Smoke's incredibly hot and bitter. The remedy is a cooler Salem as a chaser. The weed's potent stuff and has no ownership. It's always community property. Someone buys a few 10 packs and stashes them under a sandbag for all to smoke. He tells me about growing up on the reservation. I tell him what it was like moving from place to place every few years as an army brat. He begins to teach me Lakota. "Wahane, bro. My people have always been warriors. My father was a warrior. His father was a warrior. All the fathers were warriors. Now it's my turn. My dad was a warrior too, even though he's an engineer. He landed at Anzio and chased Mussolini up the Italian peninsula." We can't stop giggling. We're warriors charged with saving lives. Cannabis amplifies irony. Living conditions are primitive. 8 to 12 men in a hooch, screened in to block mosquitoes and reinforced by plywood and sandbags. Latrines are 55-gallon drums hidden in the standard wooden shelter. Contents burn off with kerosene. The shitters are placed as far as possible from the hooches. The winds are fickle. We learn to live with the smell of kerosene, smoke, and shit. Personal hygiene is extremely basic. A bar of soap and a squat under the spigot at the back of the water tanker. Kenny prefers the total immersion method. We share the hill with an Army intelligence unit that has a small, solid concrete hut. Sometimes we hear shouts and screams coming from it. The valley below is beautiful and idyllic. The hill and the nearby area haven't seen heavy action for more than a year. Even so, the ridge across from us is scorched and pockmarked from our bombing with napalm and Agent Orange. Sometimes on Saturdays, the USO sends out entertainment. Usually this is a Vietnamese or Filipino singer with a small combo. It's a very bright day when she's around-eyed. Sometimes these shows are accompanied by Red Cross volunteers, young women dressed in crisp pale blue uniforms who dispense cookies, coffee, and Kool-Aid, along with careful, neutral conversation. We call them donut dollies. On the hill, Kenny and I hold sick call for the troops. One or the other of us walks with a squad of Marines on the morning mine sweep down the road from the hill and into Kin Village. The VC are known to be busy overnight in the hamlets. Afterward, Kenny and his radioman ride a truck north to continue the ongoing job of clearing an area of wrecked vehicles and unexploded ordnance from an old battle. My duty is to hold a MedCap, Medical Civil Action Program, clinic in the village. My aid pack contains a small supply of battle dressings intended for gunshot and shrapnel wounds, bags of IV solution and the lines to start them running, a large bottle of aspirin, a box of 10 morphine syrettes, a large spray bottle of methylate, a box of Band-Aids, and a few rolls of adhesive tape and gauze. While my Marines work on leveling and resurfacing the stretch of road at the base of the hill, I sit down on the roadside with Brownie, my radioman, and open shop. As soon as the school lets out, Brownie and I are surrounded by kids. Often one of them has suffered a paper cut at school. Another has fallen and skinned a knee. They acquire great status if they can get a bright pink spray of methylate from the Bok Si, the Vietnamese word for doctor. It doesn't matter how badly it stings. A Band-Aid along with it is even better, and a full gauze bandage is best of all. It's on one of these days that it happens. It's market day, and Brownie and I have just set up our station about 30 feet from the junction of the main highway and the road coming from the hill. Down comes our 2.5-ton truck fitted on the front with an enormous grading blade. It's been a dry week and the water tanker hasn't yet wet down the dirt. As the grader reaches the road junction, the wind shifts direction and blows dust into the air in a plume. Around the curve from the trunk road at full speed comes a Scotia cab, about the size of an SUV. It has running boards. Passengers cling to the windowless posts on the sides. Others ride on the roof. The interior is packed with still more, including a number of small children. Smitty, who's operating the grader, swerves to avoid a collision. I hear the crunch of metal a split second before the first screams. Suddenly there are cries everywhere. Bok Si, Lai Dai! Doctor, come here! I scoop all my gear into my aid bag. I yell to Brownie to radio for help, then run toward the accident site. Villagers run from the market and are climbing all over the wreck. They're busily rubbing very pungent mint oil, their favorite remedy, on the lips and noses of the victims. I order them to stop. Let me reach the injured. Let me help. It does no good. They continue to clamor all over the scene. Brownie radios for 2 medevac choppers and a Vietnamese army detail. We need crowd control. It takes forever for help to come. 3 are dead, including 2 children. Finally, a truck full of ARVN soldiers arrives. Their captain fires his pistol into the air and screams at the villagers to disperse and let me work. I start as many IVs as I have and slap battle dressings on several wounded. When the medevac choppers arrive, they fly 11 people to the civilian hospital in Da Nang. I later learned that one of them died en route. Kenny and his radioman have heard Brownie's call. Their detail breaks off work to return to the village. They arrive at the scene just after it's all over. I've already caught a ride back up the hill. Have you seen Doc Clark? Kenny asks one of them. God, man, it was bad down there. He did a real good job and held it together, but he's in rough shape. You better go find him. Kenny finds me sitting on my rack. Alan, what the hell happened down there? I don't want to talk about it. Then I explode. Those fucking gooks, they were all over everybody with their goddamn mint oil. I couldn't keep them peeled off so I could do a goddamn thing. He sits with me as I cry and continue to rant about how ineffective I'd been. I never use the word gook, and I rarely say fuck. Kenny takes great care of me that day. When it's time for chow, he goes to the mess tent and brings me a tray. He stays with me until it's dark, talks me into going out to lift a sandbag for some weed to obliterate the stain of that day. The strangest thing about this episode is that I have no memory of the incident in the village except my rant to Kenny afterward. I have strong recall of life on the hill and what I did on the routine days. But I remembered that awful day only after Kenny recently recounted the entire tale in a telephone conversation. Since our internet reunion, he had asked me several times whether I have any PTSD from Vietnam. Every time I had said that I have no memory that would cause any of the symptoms I associate with PTSD. I was thinking back to the men I'd seen in naval hospitals at home, the walking wounded who shuffled around on their Thorazine cloud and could not stop reliving what they had seen and done in Vietnam. I haven't had any of those problems. For 41 years, I've been spared the memory of that day. No photos were taken of that incident. I've tried to produce for myself a live feed of those events. I continue to come up empty. I can recall in detail the routine of those months. That particular day continues to elude me. It's as though a strip of old celluloid film has bubbled from heat, destroying the images, and then resumed. I have only the account Kenny put together and shared with me all these years afterward. The first time I couldn't save a life.